My name is Tupac Martyr, and this is Glyph. Real stories from names you may not know, or whose work you've probably seen, heard, or read without realizing it. Leading into how they got here, the twists, the detours, and what's driving them now. Today, I'm in conversation with Wish Martins.
I wanted to be a journalist. I thought it was really, at that time, important for me to be spreading the word on the news of the day. And it was for me, and this was, I don't know, 1980, in the 80s. It was really important to pass on the news and to promote, and just seeing the journalists on television, that's wow, such glamour. It was so, they were so impactful also socially, right? So that was at that time for me the drive. And, you know, in a way, it's still a bit of what drives me, in the sense that I still do believe that it's really important, especially now, for us to be aware of what's around us. And given the place where we are right now, tech-wise, it's becoming more and more difficult. It's becoming increasingly harder for us to understand where we are, what's surrounding us, and what's influencing us. So I would say things actually didn't change that much at all at the end. But yeah, wanted to be a journalist. Unfortunately, sad to say, it's a dying job at this time.
I was going to say, I remember, like, obviously I grew up in Mexico City, but I remember like how important this journalists were. You know, we used to have a very famous guy called Jacobo Zabludowski, and he was like the voice of the news. You know, like he was it was such a magnificent person, kind of thing, and I don't think we have that anymore in the news.
No, unfortunately, not just in the news. Unfortunately, I believe that a lot of the jobs, a lot of the professions that were respected in the 1980s and maybe beginning of 1990s, they're not as respected anymore, which is sad, because if we go back, the reason why they were respected related, I believe, to their weight, the social weight, and the fact that people acknowledged the role that these people were playing in informing us, in sharing what was truthful, what was indeed happening, sometimes jeopardizing their health, their safety, right? So that I believe was something really important, and stemmed from a very clear notion of collective, which right now does not exist. Right now, we are more and more inside bubbles created by technology, sometimes also created by ourselves. And overall, it's increasingly hard for us to sometimes find what truth is, and post-truth society. And that clearly is something that we should be attending to, but unfortunately we're not. And unfortunately, again, we're not valuing people who are trying to make a living out of promoting what's truth. So that unfortunately happened, and I'm saying, keep on saying unfortunately, because it is unfortunate. This happened in 40 years, and I believe it says a lot about where we are, where we stand now, socially and economically, on our values and on what we are as a society moving towards.
I find what you're saying fascinating, because at the end of the day, is like we're so much closer to all the news than we have ever been. You know, like there was a time where, like, the newspaper, you know, you had to come in and grab the newspaper in the morning, or maybe the afternoon newspaper, to see what the new news were throughout the day. You know, and now it's like in your doorstep, no matter what you do. And it's almost like the element of how dumb scrolling we are. You know, like you're scrolling through images of Gaza and Ukraine and buy something for free, or like it's ridiculous in terms of how technology has dehumanized in a way um, that element of journalism, and at the same time the new tools. Like I remember when the BBC used a 360 camera for the first time to show us what the camps were look like, and that became like a big moment in tech.
Indeed. No, it was, and mind you, there still are a lot of fascinating applications using emerging technologies, and journalism can be uh, clearly leveraged by them, and they're tools at the end of the day. So it makes absolute sense. But it's also clear to me that, as you said, these bubbles exist because we kind of not just allow, but we nurture them, and at the end, that the amount of news and the amount of knowledge that we have just in the in the tip of our fingers, it's always available. All of that is available to us, but that doesn't mean that we really take advantage of it. And this applies. You can replace the word journalism by democracy. It's pretty much the same thing. It's people enjoy it, people like it. If you ask anyone anywhere in a Western society if they appreciate journalism work, if they appreciate journalists, 99.9% will say yes. But do they really pay for news? Do they really support journalism? Man, not even like journalism themselves or journalists themselves. It's like I discovered that the first digital media literacy research center was was created here in Portugal in about 2 years ago, and it was, if not one of the first, if not the first, one of the first ones in Europe. And this is something. So the overall digital transformation inside the media happened or has been happening since at least 30 years ago. At least I remember like people crying wolf for like since 95, saying things are going to change. You cannot like keep on selling the newspapers. This is not going to work. And people just said, yeah, but. And then you had, of course, a lot of generational issues because people weren't used to technology. You can say that, and you can say that you had a lot of teams that weren't used to integrating technology. But hey, at the end, the leaders, that's where it all ends. The leaders didn't care. They just did business as usual because it was working, or it wasn't like working that bad, and things worked out. And at the end, we're seeing what's happening right now. There's no structure model for journalism, and we are in dire need. So unfortunately, there's this Portuguese stand-up comedian, and not just stand-up comedian. It's very well known, Ricardo Araújo Pereira. And at a given point in one of his sketches, he stated something that I kept. He said, "We at this time we don't have serventia. We don't know what to do with democracy because it's just there. We just don't have the guide, the manual to work it." Because it's just there, and we like it, we enjoy it, we want it to go on, we support it, we just don't do anything with it, and I believe more and more that's one of the issues. We keep on like dealing, so much happened in the last 20 years, so much changed in people's lives in the last 20 years. I do believe that technology has been one, if not the major driver of change, of that change. But we're still trying to solve the issues with the structures and the tools that were created 80, 90, 150 years ago. And that just simply doesn't cut it. And people are seeing that, and then they kind of react in different ways, one of them being creating and feeling comfortable in bubbles.
Hmm. I mean, there's a lot of things that come to my mind as you're talking, but I guess it's a double question. Is one is when did you realize there's no way I can be a journalist? And also, like at the same time, is you're part of a generation that I always find really interesting, which is uh, you're the generation that comes after a dictatorship, and so your parents grew up in the dictatorship, and then suddenly you're born, but you're born into a free country or a democratic country, and how that also changes the perspective of how you see life, because I think people tend to rebel all the time versus an elder generation to try to do something different. But when the previous generation was in dictatorship, there isn't that much that you can rebel against.
Yeah, or at least not in the same institutional manner and shared manner, right? So it's not identitary. It's just something people just say, yeah, well, stop being like that. Yeah, so in a way, it's a privilege in the sense that, of course, being born in just two years, no, actually 3 years after the revolution, allowed me to still be very much in touch with everything that happened just after the revolution. And of course, I remember most of the really cool stuff. And by cool stuff, I mean, for instance, that we had on television these, we had this series. So this show, it was a show by this guy called Vasco Granja, who scoured the planet in search of different ways to do comics and cartoons, and then he presented these cartoons in his show. So it was just like, now Polish cartoons, and they were like, yeah, it was like completely off the the chart, of completely off, outside of any kind of structure that we had previously. It was the references were not there, and then suddenly he would jump on to like something in Argentina, and then something in South Africa, and it was a very interesting time, in the sense that of course we were living in the dream that some of that generation had for what they wanted the revolution to be, um, and that brought a lot of inputs, really really interesting inputs, and overall allowed me to have again this notion of social valuation and appreciation for specific professional roles that you have. Like for instance, what's happening right now with educators and teachers, it's just not just an educational crisis or a political crisis. It's almost a moral crisis in society. We are not. You don't have. There, it's not possible for us as a society to support teachers in the public education system to be in the capital city doing what they want to do and what they love to do, or else they wouldn't be doing it, because they usually don't have those many conditions to perform their jobs. So that's the issue. That's one of the issues that I believe it's again compares to what we were talking about journalism. But yeah, I guess things kind of changed. So I went on the journalism track until, I don't know, maybe I was 22, maybe 21. This because I actually am a graduate, a bachelor in social communication. So I could have been a journalist. But then I moved on. I started working around my sophomore year. So then around that time, I was, yeah, I started interacting within the corporate environment with several different people. That led me to much more the marketing bit, and brought me into several different roles. I started working also during the internet bubble, which was really, really interesting because now I can do a lot of comparisons with what was happening. Like the first work or the first job I got into this big e-commerce platform was we're talking about one of those .com bubble projects. So very well funded by one of the major telcos in Portugal and two of the major banks and the post office. And I was part of the team that was creating the platform. And then I went in as a marketing analyst. Was really, really cool. But I remember sharing that at that time with my mother. And she said, "Oh, we are going to work in the internet. Oh, you take care, right? You mind yourself because, that it's a lot of crime there, a lot of pirates, you should really take care, son. You mind your companies. You should be who you hang out with because there are really bad people there. And why? Because at that time on the media, all you would hear was Napster and peer-to-peer and piracy, and it was that peak. And fast forward 20 years, and if you replace peer-to-peer with Web3, it's pretty much the same thing. And crypto, right? That maybe there are several kids out there that have exactly the same discussions with their parents because, wow, crypto. No, don't do that. It's all just people laundering money. Don't do that. Don't join that market. So yeah, at the end, it was really, really interesting. I started like moving into the tech sphere, and I started realizing that already at that time that technology had this huge capacity to change behaviors, and that's something that fascinates me. And I still believe, and I think I will always believe that. For us to move forward as a society, as a collective, it's really, really important to identify the kind of behaviors that or that we would like to adopt, and then because we're all different, it's really important to bring our ideas into the mix, and then for us to align and try to sort out something that is collective, but that really goes towards the goal that one states. So the goal of social development, the goal of growing a public space, which is also something that is disappearing. The public space, the space where you want to build something together with others, because you have to live with them, and more we do not have to live with other people. We are building our own silver palaces, either physically or digitally, and we really don't want to connect with the others to build something with them, rather much more to just point the finger and say, hey, you're wrong. You need to change your opinion. So yeah, circling back, that happened. Then Web 2.0 kicked in. Around that time, I had my own company and had also the opportunity to, before startups, to create my own startup ish and sell was something kind of a marketplace for freelancers. That happened pretty much during the kickoff, let's say, of Web 2.0. And then then, yeah, I had several other businesses that weren't so successful. And around 2014, started interacting with emerging tech. And that was pretty much the time that I realized, yeah, this is going to be completely and fundamentally transforming to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, 2014. I remember very well what I was doing in 2014 for tech, and the elements that we were trying to develop. But what I find interesting though is the parallels of, because I have a joke with a friend of mine where we send each other phrases and we ask who said it, right? And the first one that we did it was Donald Trump or Kanye West, you know. But now, literally, we're doing who said it. We said that from the 1930s, or is it from now? And it's unbelievable the amount of phrases that could be, that could be used in the 1930s that can be used now, and then the other way around. But it's
Yeah.
like I said, I find it fascinating when you've been around the block basically and seen Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and almost those parts in the middle, and how each one has developed the other one, you know, and the mistakes of one have gone to the other one, and the mistakes the other, to try to make mistakes go away, and now we're looking, when we're looking at Web 3 and the metaverse, um the element of the element of companies don't own the platform, it's people that make the platform.
Yeah, hey, I hope it's like that. I hope it's interoperable. I hope it's as massively multiplayer as possible. I hope that we have intellectual property safeguarded. But these are hopes. At this time, these are hopes, and it's really, it's, again, that's why it's so important, I believe, at this time to like wave these flags regarding data sovereignty, regarding intellectual property, regarding identity, digital identity. We're talking about something that is foundational. So we can talk it in two manners. So we can talk it at a very, very, very low and foundational level. So talking about like philosophical level. We never had changes, technological changes that have philosophical impacts, and right now we do. Right now we have the concept of post-truth. That is a philosophical context and concept that you didn't have. That was brought in by by technology. For instance, the concept of self is being changed with avatars. The concept of the other and the presence. So these two concepts are being changed by telepresence, by virtual spaces, by remote assistance. And then suddenly, when we are changing these in our minds and we are accepting possibilities that were once just not possible, then we're opening the door to many others. and again, we are doing this without any kind of manual, any kind of guide, because there is no guide. We're playing it as they come, right? And now I see it much more than when I saw back in 2008 to 2010. It was at that time very, very clear that there was an evolution. Things were accelerating, but at the same time, we had like things that were on screen, and then smartphones, and then formats also started like multiplying and diversifying. We had text, and then images, then photos, then videos. But now it's, I believe, much worse than that, because the issue is that the amount of stuff we don't know, it's increasing daily, and we don't have any tools to tap into this. And if you have that happening on the side, and here you have this full amount of data and mostly data and sometimes information that is being passed on that we just don't have the time nor the ability nor the talent to convert into knowledge, then and with which we created this latency and this ability to just like become impervious and not really connect with it, right? So what you were just saying, right? Gaza competing with the burger. So all of that allows people to then just start accepting stuff. And that's one of the major issues right now. When comparing, I am the son of a revolution, let's say, where people had an idea for a society, and then they, in their own capacity, in their own way, started like creating because they had like a vision of what society should be or what their role should be, whatever. The word is utopia. They had a utopia in that sense, and they started working towards that. And then we can say if it's right or wrong, and we can have opinions, and that's fine and great. The issue is that they had one, and right now we don't have so many spaces where we can create that utopia, where we can create that destination. If you see, for instance, most of the times when we relate directly with emerging tech, and most of the times in your work, in my work, we have that. You have a lot of people that are just focused on the traps, the pitfalls. So don't go there because I hate, and then don't go there because you need to go around, and then you need to like keep track and leave like a thread in order to, if you need to just roll back and do it once again. So it's really, really important for people today to avoid the pitfalls, to not fall, to not have any. But at the same time, they don't know where they're going. Or sometimes they do know because someone else told them where they should go. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what you get right now in immersive tech. Now, going back to what you were saying. So again, digital self-sovereignty, the ability for you to own your own work, the ability for you to be always accessible, not behind closed wall gardens. All of that is really interesting, but it's not happening at this time because we're seeing more and more the big players like closing doors. We see what happened with AI, and this possibly is something for someone else to discuss. But for me, what happened with AI was possibly the largest intellectual property heist in the history of mankind. Mm. And everyone's okay with it because at the end, it's a service and it's providing value. And hey, that's not an issue. The value, it's not an issue. What I'm putting, what I believe could be done in a different way is the governance of that service in a way that could be like, I don't know, maybe paying for the usage of for instance, of the books. I wrote some books. They're on OpenAI and pretty much on all LMs. I'm not getting anything from that. And mind you, I'm not the only author who is there. There's so many others. That's one issue. And when we look about, so all these things happening, we start thinking, okay, so where are the agents of change? What utopia, what kind of agents are going to like set a destination where we can all benefit from all these technologies, and in which spaces are these agents of change going to be nurtured? That's something that I am trying still to find the answer to, but clearly it's something that I believe is truly important at this time for us to talk about, to discuss it, and to find these agents of change.
Yeah, to be open about what's happening. I want to take you back to 2014. Yeah, what is the moment? Because we all had one, right? What is the moment that you went, holy cow, this tech is I can see the beginning of it, and I know where it's going to go, and I can see the future, and I'm just like what we like I said, we all had one moment that we just kind of did something or tried something. What was yours?
I believe it was so at that time. I was doing the go-to-market. So I was a marketing manager in an augmented reality development studio, and we were doing the go-to-market of actually four augmented reality products, but in 2014. So technology was like very marker-based, very gimmicky, and things were as they were. So, they weren't built for very sophisticated experiences. But at the same time, the whole promise that was held inside the technology, we were just baffled with the possibilities. And I remember when we were talking at that time with this with this project that was already using the platform. Actually, it was a project being developed by a friend of mine, and they were already running the technology. At that time, I was not very aware of the technology itself and the experiences. Not the technology I was, but how they were using it. And then suddenly I realized that what they were doing was overlaying the Lisbon's archive of photos on top of the actual places through augmented reality. And then you would have like a window into the past of that specific place. So, and just through the overlay, if done correctly, and they did, you would have some level of it's not really immersion, but kind of a peeking sentiment. That sense of you are just peeking into the past, and you could see where that corner was at some time, or like 200 years ago, being used by a florist, or it was maybe a newsstand, and there wasn't a road there. There were horses crossing by are passing by. And it's like I thought it's just amazing, because the whole impact that this brings me and pretty much all the users is not the fact that it's replacing stuff. It's the issue is that it's changing the meaning of spaces, of objects, and potentially of people. And by changing the meaning of the three elements that pretty much define our sensory experience, then we're talking about pretty much redefining how I understand the world. And that's how foundational it is. And I started thinking, okay, so first of all, this is like could be way worse than the Matrix. Again, the focus, one is like tended and oriented towards the pitfalls and the challenges and all. But then quickly I switched and I said, yeah, but this is just amazing, for instance, to try and bring in, for educational purposes, trying to bring in audiences that do not have sometimes access nor to the places, nor to the objects, nor to the people. So for educational purposes, for instance, and it still is, there are proven case studies and use cases of immersive tech applied to education. It's amazing. And I believe at scale, we can definitely have a huge transformative impact in several characteristics and in several facets of our life, public life, social life. But and of course there are challenges, and of course there are several topics that should not be treated lightly, should be considered, tended, and we should clearly invest in researching them continuously. And even more, we should not have any issue of just saying, okay, so we need to now research this. We need to put a stop. We need to hold for a bit. I'm not saying that we should do this regarding AI, because, for instance, AI, for me, it's like this huge, very, very big bag. But for sure, the argument of, oh no, we should accelerate because innovation is really great. That's fine, but one does not stop the other, and you can just accelerate. But at the same time, if it's killing people, maybe it's important for us to just try and understand why that's happening. If why I said killing people, I could say having issues, having if it's not working as it should for us, it's not bringing the benefits even. So can be something very much more lightweight. We should have the time to review it. The issue is that more and more, and then you have several people saying, "Oh, but yeah, but we can't just have the time to support and analyze everything in our in technology and in what's happening with the technology and with all technology advancement." That's fine, but at the same time, the fact that we have technology advancements means that we have more tools also to analyze that, more tools to research more quickly, more tools to research more effectively, and that takes me to yet another point, because most of the times the people that talk about privacy, safety, even talking about regulators and policymakers, and sometimes we interact with them at XRSI Europe, which is the standards development organization with which I collaborate now. It's amazing how they are not upskilled in these technologies, nor they are like engaged in getting upskilled. So, sometimes the fact that regulation has a bad rep sometimes has to do not actually with the regulation itself, not actually with the fact that we do need that point, but maybe with the fact that we still don't have the opportunity to assess and to actually assess and analyze these changes in the best possible way, because again, the people making the choices are most of the times not also even sometimes interested in integrating these.
Which is insane, isn't it, if you think about it? Because I mean, I always say that in many occasions the people that are meant to be creating the laws for it are so far behind that by the time they catch up on what they're supposed to know, we've moved forward already, and so all the laws feel outdated in that sense. It's a bit of a conundrum. I think it's it's like they're never going to be able to catch it unless they really move forward. But I was going to ask you, when so that's the moment you realized, okay, this tech thing is amazing, right? Have you seen something where you've gone, blimey, we're there, or we've landed close to what I think we were going to do? Or do you think, oh no, we're still far away from the things that I think are going to be happening? Like, are there any elements that you go, oh, I thought about that in 2014. I'm glad to see it now because this is amazing.
Several that keep on happening. It's like crazy. For instance, one of the things that kind of amazed me was Snap Local. I think it was in 2022 they launched the ability to, like, literally, as Charlie Fink said, literally paint the world with augmented reality. And that's it. So the possibility of you having like localized, accessible, filter in augmented reality experiences where people can edit what others are seeing. So it's, for me, it was kind of a next level blogging, where someone could just edit the physical reality with their digital brush and allow for others to see what they're doing. So it's like graffiti meets street art meets blogging meets I don't know, tourism, heritage, my family. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I only say that because obviously there's one promise that we that I think we all spoke about, or at least as an industry we've spoken about. Like every household will have a headset. And we're gonna be able to do this. Like those things, for example, we haven't been able to achieve, right?
No.
And we're very very far from it. Everyone is like, oh no, it's gonna be like a TV. Everyone's gonna have one at home. But no.
No, yeah. We're pretty much like back in the 1970s again, where when Bill Gates said, "No, we're all going to have a PC at home," and then said, "Yeah, for sure." But at that time, it was kind of weird, but and change was very much slower. But the fact is that it was achieved through business to business. I believe in that sense, the same is happening with immersive tech. And for instance, the last numbers from Meta, so regarding, for instance, the last quarter, are very, very illustrative of that. They refer so that immersive, so between glasses and headsets, they sold more than 1 million units in the last quarter. So I believe that at the end, things are happening slowly. A lot of use cases are being brought to life, namely business to business use cases. I believe also the infrastructure most probably is one of the reasons why consumer-based services are not being deployed at scale, because the support for those services is not like clearly, the SLAs are not still there. But I believe at a given point they will be. And for me, especially, I'm going to say in Portugal, but probably in Italy is the same, the UK is the same. If you put in like the Premier League games in VR in 360, and you have the opportunity to just select the place where you're going to be sitting at the stadium, you will have a lot of family holds that will want to have one or several headsets.
The patent for that.
Oh, then we should talk. But that's wonderful because kudos, because for me clearly it's a huge entry point. It's the entry point, and mind you, I'm talking about Premier League in Europe, but we could say NFL, or for instance NBA already is doing that in the US, and the amount of subscriptions in the service where they are doing that, where they are streaming the games to VR, is already beyond, I believe, the millions. So again, it's not in every household, but clearly there are several regions that have different uptakes, and this is very, very visible with different technologies, like for instance blockchain. The level of sophistication and penetration of Web3 services in Asian countries like Philippines, like even South Korea, like Malaysia, it's sometimes very, very different from the ones that we see in Italy and Greece and Austria, and even the kind of services, right? So again, I believe it has a lot to do with exactly the things that we don't know, and that ever increasing bag of technologies that we're not in touch with, but also the fact that we are increasingly at a global level breaking down into regions, and that's not just a political or a geostrategic happening. It's also something that is happening at a social and technological level, because culturally we are moving in different directions, and that's fine, mind you. I'm not against that. I believe that it's through that diversity that we can build up really true value. But at the same time, it would be great if we kept on communicating.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting moment in history, I would say,
Yeah.
in terms of how this democratization, this openness, but at the same time, like you say, creating more regional elements that are not exactly divided by carved out, like countries used to be, but rather all these different silos between them that just generate this entire different community or bubble, as you called it. It's but see, at the same time, like I always complain about this, that yes, we haven't given everybody a headset, yeah,
No.
but at the same time, we have. I'm saying we. I don't really do much on that side of it, but you look at things, and now a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old has the tools to do these things that when I was growing up, they were impossible to think about. So the fact that Unreal is free, and that you have something like Blender, where suddenly I remember I was doing a show and I had two guys. One was 24 years old, the other was 26, and combined them, they had 30 years of experience using Blender because they had been using it since they were 12, 13 years old. So I think that maybe the final output of the product is not in everyone's household, but the tools to create those elements are now in everyone's household.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's circle back to the fact that we have access sometimes to stuff, but we really don't engage with it. Those guys that had those years of engagement with Blender, those guys had an attitude, they had a commitment with the software itself, and most probably also with their own art, right? Because they had a lot of issues to solve, they had a lot of decisions to make along the way, and they had to stay focused in order to sort out those topics and at the same time produce something that they would be proud of. And now these tools allow you to produce not so bad work in record time.
Mm-hmm.
And the not so bad culture is neat for production purposes, but it's not really great if you want to be up there. Yeah.
No, but I mean that's where we go into the whole AI conversation, right?
Yeah, I was already there.
It's this element of what is it that you're trying to do. I mean, my tutor John used to tell me that being an artist is 10% 10% vision, yeah, and 90% problem solving.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And the fact that AI has now taken all this problem solving, quote unquote, out of our hands, but in reality, it's giving us more problems.
Indeed, and also adds another issue, I believe. Well, it had so many issues, but one of them regarding the creative process, and by creative, I'm taking here a huge scope, right? So in creativity as a whole inside each and every job and capacity. The issue is that again, for us to have something to do and to feel proficient in doing that specific task or job, we would need to find a process within which we would find some logic. We would start interpreting it, and at a given point in time, we would feel that we could trust that process in order to produce that result, and then we would be proficient in doing that because we would experience that process, and that was fine. AI brought in the slot machine process, right? You just pull in. No, it's not. Okay, let's try and do it, and now let's try and pull the lever this way. Oh, not exactly like that. Let's pull the lever the other way. Now let's do it slower. Let's try, and it's suddenly you are iterating on something which well, first of all, it's like an environmental crime because to to achieve like something, you have to produce like 11 prompts. I believe that's 10 or 11 prompts in order for you to reach an acceptable output. So that there are 10 prompts which are virtually wasted. So the energy, the power, the computing, all of it. But at the end, the issue is that the process is just pushing the slot machine. And okay, you have the prompts, but if you have something else, then the prompts are just going to something else to produce it, mind you. You will have some templates, you will have some prompt models, but those won't sort out exactly what you need because at the end, you know that the machine, the black box with which you are interacting with, will do some kind of black magic that you really don't know the rules to. So you're just going to try and work your way into it the best way. And it's just amazing. You know, I come from the marketing background, and I was just realizing one thing. We the marketers, we have been like the guys that have been working for algorithms the most time. For instance, we created, we created this specific discipline called search engine optimization, which stands specifically to best communicate directly to algorithms, right? what we have, and influence them in order for them to then take notice on us and for them to appreciate us. So it's and more we are currently selling a lot more again to algorithms. Like for instance, it's not like just the search engine algorithm, but for instance, the social media algorithm, in the sense that some of the copy that is being produced, some of the wording, the fact that you don't put the links on the body of the post, but you put it on the comment, that's just algorithm grooming. We are continuously trying to appeal and seduce the algorithm in order to get more visibility. Same thing with the AdWords algorithm, right? So it's kind of amazing because now all of this resulted into our interaction now with AI algorithms, which kind of take this to the extreme. And then suddenly we have to find some kind of shamanic way to interact with these algorithms in a way that at the end we have the result that we want, and we have the prompts, and we have our own tricks, and we try also to register some of the rules that we have, but at the end we really don't have a process. And at the end we really keep on trying and relying more and more into black boxes, and relying also in black magic that happens that we really don't understand, which goes exactly in the opposite direction of interoperability and digital sovereignty and pretty much all the open internet protocols that we all know.
It's insane. But I get you. I mean, I don't know if I told you that I was writing a manifesto for this new piece that we were making, and it's kind of taking the idea of Dogma 95 from Lars von Trier and calling it Dogma AI, and almost like it's not the only way to make a piece, but it's a way of making a specific type of piece. In the same way that, you know, you don't have to shoot every single movie like Dogma 95, sure, but if you want to shoot it that way, you know, there's this art. And a lot of it is the mistakes and the errors and the elements that need to exist, and the interaction of the human and the AI that you're using. You know, I mean, we tend to use more comfy UI and things in which I have more control over the thing rather than the black box. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, it's it's one of those things that is very. We had a discussion, and one of the guys said, "Well, what happens if I write something and I get the image that I want?" And I said, "Well, if you do, go and get a lottery ticket." Because the chances of that happening.
No, but that's the issue. For instance, one of the topics that I'm actually I wrote an article, hope to publish it next week or something like that, or the week, well, this month. For instance, all of those tries that you do and retries, they generate images, right? Maybe those images aren't the right ones for you, but maybe they're images that are right for someone else. What happens to those images? They're just deleted. Maybe there's a way for, first of all these images to be generated in a way that maybe they don't take up so much so many resources. But besides that, maybe there's a way for these images to be available afterwards, right? And maybe you don't need to generate. Maybe you just need to like go through this huge database that already exists, and maybe you have an algorithm that goes through that database, but doesn't need to generate. So yeah, it's something that right now is in my mind because I see the numbers of yeah the environmental toll and the energy spending regarding the computing processing for AI services as a whole, and it's just crazy, crazy, and the expectations, the future of all these data centers is ludicrous. So again, it's a utopia that someone brought to us and told us that it was really, really important. And now we need to win this race because this race is really, really important.
Now, I have a massive problem with utopia, by the way. I don't think we've ever talked about this,
No.
but I do have an issue with utopia because utopia, by its own definition, it's impossible to achieve because your version of a utopian world is going to be very different to my, or maybe similar, but not going to be the same, right? And so when you take the billions of people that were in the world, it's impossible to think of a single utopia that we all have, right?
It is.
And so it makes it very impossible. Hence the why we always keep talking about the word protopia, because that's actually a more achievable element that we have as a human race.
Yeah. So I see utopia much more of a tool rather than just the destination itself. And yeah, the protopia is as a model for things to happen is much more. I would say it's possibly the only one that is that is structured enough for all of us to accept that something can be achieved and that serves us all, and which we all built, by the way. But at the same time, it's also really important for us to like start somewhere and to be driven even to start that discussion, that interaction with the other guy. And that's why I believe that the utopia, the thing of you thinking, oh, so this could be really great if. I'm not thinking about like, oh, the world should be in this very, very different way and we should all do this and that. It's not sometimes something as, as impactful or as glorious or as big as that. Can be something that is very focused or that is oriented specifically to a specific task, a specific job, or even a specific region. I believe at the end is that we really all should have a goal, a transformation goal, based on what we believe should be the benefits that exist inside technology, not just technology, but overall can be achieved through technology and through all of through all of these tools. And the issue is that most of the times we don't think about that, and because sometimes we don't have tools, we don't have the skills, we don't have the time, we don't have the people we don't have the spaces, many reasons. But it's at the end very, very important for us to define that.
Yeah, it's you got me thinking on this idea of the user base of people that have made images and put in them somewhere. Because you're right, there's so many prompts that people just use on a regular basis that they could just go in and find the image, and at the end of the day, as I always say, that image should not be used as it has come out of the oven, basically, but rather, put it somewhere else and do something with it yourself, and then add an element of humanity to it. So yeah, it's not a bad shout.
No, not at all. I'll be sharing also with you the link to the article, but yeah, it's the whole purpose is that one, and I believe we can do that on one side. On the other side, we can also work regarding sorry. We can also work on trying to save the environment during the tries themselves. So on each roll of the slot machine, and trying to do it in a draft, let's say, version or something like that. Because at the end, it's a huge amount. We're talking about like 90% of the computing power that is being used. It's just fully wasted, right? So
I had this this mental picture came to me of like an image graveyard of where all, like all dogs go to heaven, like where do all the images that are never used from AI go to, and where do they exist?
Yeah, existential crisis from these images, because they were like the sons and daughters that were not wanted, and they just were thrown in there, unfortunately.
But not only that, like it's similar to, like you're saying, when you ride the slot machine and you're waiting for this like things to happen, and they're like the anticipation of whether or not your prompt is going to give you the correct image, and like waiting for it, like there's an entire element of what the human is waiting for, and then suddenly they look and they go, no, not like this, and then they make a new.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, again, you think about that. Because I believe you, maybe you have something in there, but it's something that can prove impactful. And but hey, it's right now we have AI is all around us. It's something that happened like in, I don't know, 2.5 years, and
3 years. In 3 years, I remember when no one knew what Midjourney was, and then suddenly, your grandma tells you, "Oh, I can make that in Midjourney."
it's kind of crazy. I remember also it was, Midjourney probably was the first moment, that the first true moment where I thought so. And it happened, or I started noticing it in November or December, something like that. And I remember at that time thinking, okay, so the guys that just joined the arts bachelor in the university in September, most probably the whole course program and curriculum will be deprecated at the end of the first year.
I'm not sure.
No, I'm kidding, of course, but the issue is that the pace of change was so big, and it was already at that time so visible that, and the programs inside in the art schools are not taking into account artificial intelligence, still not yet, right now in Portugal. And it's amazing to see how these tools are right now an integral part of so many different processes. Right?
Yeah.
As
Uh, but it's really funny, right? Because obviously there was the blackout.
yeah,
Yeah. And seeing how people behaved during the blackout was really funny. It's just like suddenly the world existed again, and no one was attached to their phone because there was nothing to see, and there was people playing, and like you realize how quickly humans went back to a modus operandi that they used to have.
yeah. It's almost like the allegory of the cave from Plato was a documentary, right? And suddenly it turned off, and then suddenly, oh wow, it's here. Oh, let's step into. Oh, we can play here, and we can talk. Oh, hi neighbor, and it's yeah. Unfortunately, it is. I'm not saying that again. We are not talking to neighbors. We are not playing on the outside. We can do it more, and we don't sometimes appreciate that. And the fact that we have easier outlets for our entertainment, for our education, for our social interaction, for our everything makes us sometimes go there instead of going elsewhere. And the fact is that the elsewhere is where our freedom resides. Places where or digital channels are mostly owned by someone with someone communicating a message that they wrote or enabling a service that they have, which is paid in one way or the other. So at the end, it's really, really important for us to also be educated in using technology. And that, along with financial, now you hear a lot about financial literacy. And I also believe that we should hear a lot more about technological literacy and data literacy, because at this point, no one has a notion of what they're doing, and we just like get in the services, we start using them, and they work, and it's great. So, but what's behind them, and especially how can we navigate the diversity? How can we connect with the number, the the huge, the increasing number of technologies that I don't know? How can I educate my son in a way that is positive, but at the same time not just removing him from the interaction with technology? All of that is really, really important, I believe. And we should have outlets and spaces where this can be discussed. And I believe for that to happen, we have to onboard the people that actually know how to do these into the technologies. And that's why it's so important for us to bring in the educators themselves, to bring in the anthropologists, to bring in the sociologists, to bring in the guys that unfortunately have been mistreated throughout decades. And that's why possibly they're not as open as other fields of expertise. But at the same time, they are key for us to understand how changes are going to affect us at an individual level, at a social level, at a structural and civilizational level. And yeah, that's key for all of us.
So, what's the technology that you're most excited about then?
I am excited about, well, it's always about the convergence of technologies, right? But I would say I'm not, it's always hard. Yeah, I would say augmented reality. I could say digital twins. I could say robotics, of course. Right now, I am researching a lot in that field, but it's a lot more in that field. But at the end, what I'm really, really excited about, what I'm really interested about is data. It's at the end that it's not just the fuel, it's not just the business side of things. It's overall the fabric of the internet, the fabric of the web, and the fabric of all of these services. And when we talk about data, and when we talk about not just personal data, but behavioral data, but inferred data, contextual data, space data, we're talking about such a humongous amount of data that it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. And right now, I'm really enthusiastic. I'm gonna say enthusiastic, but I'm really keen on unraveling and researching a bit is how the data governance on all this data context is going to work out, because it's crazy. It's borderline crazy, and everything is becoming sensorized, and then in comes the robots along with the holograms, and then afterwards you will already have the drone/flying cars, and then Web3 and new payments, and suddenly you have XR also coming into the play and allowing people to jump into other places and remotely interact. And then one says, okay, so this is wonderful, but at the same time, where's the shared space?
Thanks again to Louise for the conversation. If you'd like to dive deeper, head to our Substack, Glyph Podcast, for show notes, links, and extras. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Glyph Podcasts. If you'd like to see a video of this conversation, head over to our YouTube channel. My name is Tupac Martyr. See you next time.